I'm gonna start some YouTube drama. Hello and welcome back to Suck War Central. My name is CJ, and now that I'm approximately 1 year into being a Hunter x Hunter YouTuber, I have some thoughts about my time on this platform. My main thought is that I haven't been controversial enough. Now, for those of you who have managed to get a glimpse under the carefully curated public persona I wear on this channel, you'll know that I am what some might call an attention hoe. That is why, in an effort to drum up some controversy and farm those clicks, I'm gonna be calling out another Hunter x Hunter YouTuber. You see, there is someone on this platform who, like me, does a lot of theorizing about this series. They often put out theories that are full of holes and which I find unlikely to pan out and which some people might call irresponsible to publish in the first place. Furthermore, this person's insults to me are quite personal. In fact, a lot of what's gone wrong with my life can be directly laid at the feet of this person's actions. Not that I'm gonna be airing that kind of dirty laundry. By now, I'm sure some of you have figured out who I'm talking about, so I'll just come out and say it. I'm here to expose Suck War Central. In my video on who's going to die next, I said the following. Rihan is now currently assigned to 5th Prince Tebepa, and that assignment is about to get him into a whole lot of trouble. You see, after Tebepa signed a treaty with Kurapika, her beast appeared, and Rihan surmised that signing the treaty was related to its appearance. Now, this presents a very easy opportunity for Rihan to screw up. Sooner or later, he's going to find out that the contract Kurapika has with Tebepa is of the Nen-based sort. Okay, but like why? Why is that inevitable? Longhi, after all, is keeping plenty of information from Tebepa, including her ability to use Nen, let alone the specifics of that ability. So, even Tebepa might not know of the Nen contract, meaning Rihan has no way to overhear it. And if Longhi wanted to communicate that privately to Tebepa, she could absolutely make it happen. It's not like the Ben Men and the princes are joined at the hip or discreet communication is impossible, so Rihan has literally no way to ever find out or any reason to suspect that the contract was arranged via Nen. Once he does, it's only natural for him to assume that the contract was a result of the beast. No the hell it isn't. I'll tell you whose ability he'll think it is, even if he discovers this. Longhi's. And why? Because Furikov is gonna tell him that Longhi was secretly a Nen user the entire time. Now, you might be tempted to say that this conflicts with Rihan's ability. In order for Predator to be effective, he needs to learn about a target's ability all on his own. But this is about Longhi, not the toad he's after, and the information in question is just that she secretly uses Nen. It's nothing about her actual ability, which won't diminish Rihan's effectiveness if he chooses to target her. So, there's actually no drawback to Furikov letting Rihan know. In other words, pretty much every conclusion I came to about Rihan being in trouble was dead wrong. But really, poking holes in one of my earliest videos is such low-hanging fruit. So let's talk about my last two videos, which centered around the theory that Wobble is Beyond's child and Periston controls Silent Majority. Now, a lot of people had a lot of reasons they weren't buying what I was selling, but personally, I found two quite embarrassing mistakes in my own work that I didn't see anybody call out. And with how egregious they are, this is pretty shocking. So, when determining where Periston would want to be located in the Black Whale, I tried to make sense of this image of the ship that I found on the wiki, and attempted to deduce where everything was, like so. If nothing else, it gives us plenty of information. Now, this map notably doesn't include the prison, but we can intuit where the prison is located. Before we start, I want to establish that given the size of these rooms, the guards on this map are just decoration and not to scale. In any case, the prison is likely to be kept away from all the princes, so I doubt these antechambers on the sides are the prison. They're likely the banquet hall in the VVIP area. So we've got two directions to go, this door at the back and this area up these stairs. Given the grandiosity of this wide area, I'm going to assume that these stairs lead to the king and queen's quarters. This is supported by the fact that there's, stairs. It symbolizes how the king is above the princes. Yap. Anyway, this was all stupid and pointless because check this shit out. I had completely forgotten, but in the actual freaking manga itself, the areas on this map are labeled. I only realized this while rereading the Suck War, as I am wont to do, but I was mortified. Granted, all that theorizing was more or less correct. I nailed everything except the banquet hall's location, but still. This should have been a serious red flag that I needed to brush up on the sacred texts. And speaking of which, while speculating about Silent Majority's user, I very casually dropped this line. but none of the secret Nen users he identified were Silent Majority's user. He, in this case, being Furikov. So, what exactly was my justification for that? Well, by way of his Nen analysis, Furikov determined that Longhi was the user of Silent Majority, yet we, the audience, know that's wrong. After all, Longhi revealed her own ability to Kurapika, which notably wasn't Silent Majority, and she said the snakes weren't her doing in a conversation where Kurapika was using a lie detector, except that neither of those reasons actually exonerates her. For starters, we've seen Nen users have totally unrelated Nen abilities all the time. There's no reason that Longhi can't have both Moonlit Decree and Silent Majority. And second of all, and most damning, Kurapika doesn't bust out the dowsing chain until the page after Longhi claims not to be Silent Majority's user, and she never once addresses it while the dowsing chain is active, nor does Kurapika ask, because he's too caught up in her revelations about being the child of Beyond Netero. So, actually, we cannot discount Longhi at all. Nothing exonerates her, and there's plenty of ways Silent Majority's actions could have benefited her that I'll dive into in a future video. Occam's razor would suggest that Furikov is right on the money, Longhi is the killer, and Togashi hit it right under our noses with this little dowsing chain trick. A trick that got my ass so bad, I didn't even address the possibility in my video because I thought Togashi had already thrown it away. Speaking of things I didn't address, a while ago I put together a theory on how Illumi is lying to the spiders and actually plans to kill them on Hisoka's behalf. I still stand by this theory, but I realize now it's actually a lot weaker than my video makes it seem. In that video, I claimed that Illumi being on tier 3 of the Black Whale is suspicious because Illumi knows Hisoka about as well as anyone could, so he'll have a pretty good understanding that Hisoka loves his finery. We always see this man in nice hotels, nice restaurants, and dressed to the nines. It should be extremely obvious to Illumi that Hisoka wouldn't be caught dead slumming it on the lower tiers and is almost certainly a VVIP on tier 1. So sure, this makes sense on the face of it. If Illumi were setting out to hunt Hisoka by himself, he'd be in the wrong place. But that's just the thing. Illumi is joining up with the spiders, who are led by Crollo. It's likely that Crollo is the one who picked the lower tiers as the meeting place, not Illumi. Still, there's more to past me's reasoning than that, so let's continue. Despite this, Illumi is quite notably not on tier 1, even though he has a VVIP ticket. He is actively choosing to avoid the place where he should know he can find his supposed target. And when this guard asks him why, his answer is business. Now, I didn't mention this in my original video, but it's important to note that the guard offers to escort Illumi back up and he declines. So, my hypothesis that he's avoiding where Hisoka should be to hunt the spiders seems plausible on those grounds, yes? Sure, if you don't think about it for more than a few seconds. Even if he is hunting Hisoka, allowing a guard to escort him up to tier 1 is a terrible idea for Illumi. If he just waltzes in there, as himself, through the front door, Hisoka is sure to notice. If Illumi wants to get the drop on Hisoka, he should find his own discreet way to tier 1. Furthermore, past me failed to consider that Kaluto probably doesn't have a VVIP ticket like Illumi, and would thus be left stranded down there if Illumi were to take that guard up on his offer. Also, this is a huge ship. Of course Illumi's not gonna cross a boat large enough to hold 4 times the population of Greenland that quickly. But all things considered, he's one of the furthest spiders up on the map, so I can't conclusively prove that Illumi actually is avoiding tier 1 as I assumed he was. In any case, let's move on to this video where I purport to determine the whereabouts of all the princes after chapter 410. So, pretty early on into the video, I make a huge mistake and say something that's just flat out completely wrong. Thanks to that ability and the rate at which he's growing, I can honestly say that Terror Sandwich has nothing to fear. Maybe he'll use that time to actually do something cool, and if whatever he does is cool enough to win my respect, I might even consider calling him by his proper name. Yeah, fucking right. It will be a cold day in hell before I ever acknowledge this man by any name other than Terror Sandwich, no matter what he does. But to be serious, there's a major possibility about some prince's whereabouts that I simply did not consider. It's entirely possible that Benjamin is mistaken about the number of princes he has in custody. To quote Willard H. Wright,
幻は幻に虚構は猫箱に閉ざされることで真実となる
What our friend means is that Benjamin might have incorrect ideas about the princes he has in custody because he can't be everywhere at once. He's relying on his soldiers to relay the information to him. This means that if his soldiers are either lying to him or themselves incorrect, he'll have the wrong information. It's entirely possible one of the princes Benjamin thinks is captured has been replaced by a body double or doppelganger. After all, we know very little about what Luzurus, Zonglei, and Woble's beasts can do, and several princes have freshly Nen-awakened soldiers ready to make some Hatsus thanks to Kurapika's Nen class. The same can be said of the theory that Benjamin's soldiers are lying to him. Soldiers affected by a manipulation ability or possessed of ulterior motives like Longhi could easily claim a prince is there when they aren't for any number of reasons. I've got my eye on Camilla's Nen beast in particular, which can apparently manipulate a large number of people once the conditions are met. Anyway, let's move on to another video. In this one, I try to determine why Morena wants a specialist. Here's what I have to say. Morena was hoping to snag one of 4th Prince Terror Sandwich's guards for this, so it almost certainly has something to do with our enigmatic prince himself. Morena does say she wants to infect one of his soldiers to keep an eye on his whereabouts, but she wouldn't need a specialist for simple recon, so there has to be more to it than that. Well, yes, but actually no. In that video, I fell for another one of Togashi's classic misdirections. Yes, Morena says she wants to infect one of Terror Sandwich's guards, and yes, Morena says she wants a specialist. So the audience is meant to conclude that these are related, especially because the specialist they get just so happens to also be one of Terror Sandwich's guards. In actuality, these discussions were totally separate, and Morena just got lucky. This means that, really, whatever ability Morena wants from Volkson probably has nothing to do with Terror Sandwich at all, rendering the entire rest of this video pointless. In any case, let's move on to this depressing-ass video. I still like most of it, but there is a point in it where I came up with a really stupid idea.
The Blade of Divine Favor is meant to be passed on to the next King of Kakin, and we can assume that like the Seed Urn and the Lotus Anchorite, it is a powerful Nen-imbued artifact with some grand purpose and ability. Just as the Seed Urn and Lotus Anchorite lock participants into the Succession War, the Blade of Divine Favor may very well lock the next king into ruling in a certain way, a way that comports with the conditions of a similarly powerful Nen ability.
So this is total nonsense. The entire point of the Succession War is to determine who is the fittest to be king and whose ideology will dominate. Granted, the methodology is very skewed, but to then mind control the subsequent king and impose those kinds of conditions on them would defeat the entire point of the process, as well as negate any risk incurred by the abilities at play. And as we all know, risk is what makes Nen conditions work. If there's no risk, the condition is weak and pointless. So really, I don't even know what I was smoking while writing this script. I mean, the only way I should have even raised that idea was by saying something like, obviously, I don't think the Blade of Succession mind controls you or anything, but such and such. Speaking of hasty predictions, let's talk about how I said martial law would be the trigger for total anarchy aboard the Black Whale. I stand by that idea, but in retrospect, I'm pretty sure I was wrong about how it's gonna happen. Here's what I said. The Phantom Troop are on a mission. They're hunting Hisoka down at all costs, and they're not about to let some pesky bullshit like martial law get in their way. As we see during Yorknew and how they handle the Mafia families, the Phantom Troop avoids starting mass slaughter in the streets, but not out of fear, it's out of convenience. The Phantom Troop just want to pursue their goals in whatever way will prove the least inconvenient for them. They probably feel they don't have to obey the law or the Mafia, but they do anyway just because that kind of mass murder isn't worth the hassle to them. As long as they can secure passage around the ship to hunt their enemies, they have no problem cooperating with the ruling powers and following the rules. However, martial law is going to lock everything down. Things like curfews and mandatory stay-inside orders are absolutely going to interfere with the troops' mission in a way that exceeds their point of tolerance. If someone tries to tell Finks and Phaeton they can't wander around the ship, then obeying the law is no longer the most convenient way to get what they want.
killing all these cannon fodder suddenly becomes worth the trouble. And well, we've all seen how capable of slaughtering ordinary soldiers the troop are.
So sure, a lot of good points here, but I think I really overestimate how quick the spiders will be to jump into action. See, they're just as in the dark as everyone else. They don't know what caused martial law, and they don't know if it's here to stay. Spoiler alert, no way in hell it is. We've seen by how they interact with the Mafia that while they're hot-headed, they're not so jumpy that they'll start killing at the slightest provocation. Sure, if it looks like martial law is here to stay, then they'd make the streets run red with the blood of the Royal Army as I predicted, but it's not. It's gonna last half a day at most, and I don't think the Phantom Troop will lose their patience that quickly. The trigger for chaos isn't gonna be something as simple as the spiders start spidering. I have a feeling Togashi's setting up a Rube Goldberg machine of devastation. He spent a good deal of chapters focusing on little things like diatribes about the Third Prince's coins and everyone's faulty theories about Shikaku's suicide and such. You know, things that seem like they shouldn't matter now that martial law has been declared. But I'm pretty sure this was just Togashi lining up the dominoes for something we can't as of yet predict. So yeah, the Black Whale is about to descend into utter chaos, but the spiders are not going to be the trigger. As for what is, we'll just have to wait for Hunter x Hunter's imminent return to find out. And hereabouts the place I think we should call it as far as poking holes in old me's logic goes, but don't leave yet. I've still got a lot of stuff to say. First of all, I'm sure a lot of you are thinking that the potential holes I called out here were nowhere near the biggest and most glaring ones in a lot of my videos, which is true. But that's because I wanted to challenge myself. A lot of the more obvious mistakes I've made have been pointed out by you guys in the comments, or just proven wrong by new chapters coming out. So I don't feel like I need to retread that or grab the low-hanging fruit. You guys have got it covered. Alright, I'm gonna do this next part in one take because I want it to come straight from the heart. So, second of all, I just want to say, we're about a week away from the 1-year anniversary of my time on this platform, and oh god, does that make me feel things. I have had so much freaking fun doing this, and I honestly cannot believe how many of you folks watch my stuff. I genuinely thought I was going to spend my entire YouTube career rambling to an audience of, 400 people? I am completely humbled and blown away by the fact that, even as I have demonstrated, I have made so many errors, leaps in logic, and bad takes over this year that, despite that, you guys stuck with me and just kept watching. I think I've learned a lot this year, a lot in this year of video making, and I hope to keep on sharpening my skills. It's gonna be tough with nursing school going on over the next couple years, and my move to a new country. There may be times where I go 2 or 3 months without uploading, but as long as there's one person left on the planet who watches my videos, I hope you guys know I'm truly not disappearing anywhere. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I love you all, and I hope you have a wonderful day.